Hello and welcome back. So this is a follow-up from my video yesterday where I posted the ITV interview highlights where Tom Bradby interviewed the Duke of Sussex. So we have a part 2 and 3 where Prince Harry spoke to Anderson Cooper for 60 minutes, as well as speaking to Michael Strahan for GMA. It's been amazing seeing the Duke of Sussex navigating all of these interviews very calmly, very clearly as well, putting forth his thoughts. So these are a couple of highlights from the 60 minutes interview. So he talks about the fact that the world watched the brothers grow up and they felt there was this impression that they were inseparable. Yet, in reading the book, Anderson asks him, "You have lived separate lives from the time your mother died." And Prince Harry answered him and told him that it was sibling rivalry. And Anderson Cooper asked him about the time that they were in the same high school. And William instructed him to pretend that they did not know each other. So Prince Harry said it hurt and he couldn't make sense of it. And he was like, quote, "What do you mean we are now at the same school? Like I haven't seen you for ages. Now we get to hang out together." End quote. And William was like, quote, No. When we are at school, we don't know each other. End quote. And Prince Harry said that he took that personally. He said that they had a very similar traumatic experience, but then they dealt with it in two very separate ways. And this for me is a standout for a couple of reasons. There has been a tweet going around where someone summarized the fact that Prince Harry talks about his brother and he talks about his appearance. And this is the quote, the actual quote, not the clip that a lot of people have been posting memes to. This is a quote in the book about the context of, that comment where he had a contentious meeting with him in 2021. And this is the quote. He said this, quote, "I looked at Willie, really looked at him, maybe for the first time since we were boys. I took it all in, his familiar scowl, which had always been his default in dealings with me. His alarming baldness, more advanced than my own. His famous resemblance to Mummy, which was fading with time, with age." End quote. And he was asked, "That's pretty cutting." And Prince Harry said that he did not think that that was cutting at all. He said, in fact, that he does love Prince William deeply, and there's been a lot of pain between them, more so in the last 6 years. So I wanted to talk about this, where he said that the book squashes this idea that somehow, his wife was the reason that their relationship was destroyed, in quotes. So he, in the statement, really left an impression with me. And I want to give my opinion here. I think a lot of people have interpreted that comment as some kind of shade towards William and that he's trying to, put him down in some kind of way in this book. But no. I believe that someone posted a clip on Twitter where Prince Harry, in a very endearing way, looks at an image with William and points out that at the time in that image, he had joined his brother at school, and he says that he thought William would take care of him because he was his older brother, and he said that William ignored him the whole time. I think it's been a theme that a lot of people have been dismissing, as he said, apart from what has been presented to us as the boys. I don't think that they actually were that close. And Prince Harry, being the younger brother, looking up to Prince William, just imagine growing up in his shoes, not only with the whole heir and spare situation, but according to me, when I think about, this particular excerpt in the book and his answer in the interview as well, I see Prince Harry as the younger brother who had this older brother to always look up to and to love and admire the heir. And I think a lot of you remember me pointing out in a former video that Prince William was called, quote, the golden hope of the monarchy. And, this is Harry, his younger brother, slightly more awkward, a ginger with whatever comes with all of that. And, his older brother, William, at the time, as he talks about in high school, who at that time was like a teenage heartthrob. And, here's the slightly awkward brother, who is in his shadow, who could deny. And Prince William at the time, as he says, he had his mother's charm, and a lot of her facial features were so beautifully represented in William at the time. And yeah, for sure, he did look like that golden child, the hope of the British monarchy there, and everyone was just fawning over William. And Of course, Prince Harry being the younger one, you buy into all of that. You admire your older brother. You look up to him. And there's a love and genuine admiration for that. And I think a lot of people listening to me can actually understand that, being in that position of looking up to someone who just seems to excel in everything. And I think William at the time was cast as this amazing young man, the heir to the British throne, academically adept, just smart in all his decision making. He is presented in one way in the press, and everyone starts to buy into the narrative. So I do believe in my heart that Prince Harry loved and still does love his older brother. And I think that's why for him, in that quote, when he says he looked at him, and he really looked at him and he could see what had happened, I think all of that disappointment just, unraveling before him, even seeing that signature look that he had of his mother in William fading from him. It's not a shade. I think it also goes to the whole paradigm of how he views Prince William now in light of what has happened, in the light of his offices allegedly at Kensington Palace leaking and briefing according to Prince Harry, as he has said. And I think that just, it just all compounded, and he could see William in a different light. And I think that for Prince Harry, looking at him in that lens was truly disappointing. I don't think people can grasp, just to try and put themselves in his place, being actually encouraged as the spare to be in the shadow of his brother. And he, I think, had accepted it. He was the third wheel, even transferring that love and admiration that he had for his older, quote, perfect brother onto his new sister-in-law, and then just seeing what's happening. And with the realization of what had happened, and as he says, in all of the briefings against Meghan in particular, and all of the disagreements that he had and perhaps the things he may have said about Meghan, I think that it has been something so hard for Prince Harry to come to grips with, that his older brother, who had it all planned out for him, could be against him, and even in a way have been spurred on by a sense of jealousy with how all the press had rushed to Meghan and were, putting her on the front pages and all that. So it's very strange. And once again, shades of Prince Charles being jealous of, a younger Diana at the time. All those shades of that. And I think it's been hard for Prince Harry. When he says it's hard, I think it has been hard for him on so many levels. So that stood out to me. Another thing that he spoke about was the trip to Balmoral, when Palace had announced that the Queen was under medical supervision. And he talks about the fact that he called his brother and asked, quote, "What are your plans? How are you and Kate getting up there?" Then he went on to say, "A couple of hours later, all of the family members that live within the Windsor and Ascot area were jumping on a plane together, a plane with 12, 14, maybe 16 seats." And Anderson asked him, was he invited? And he said he was not invited. So he says by the time he got there on his own, as we all know, the Queen had passed away. And he said he took some time to spend with her alone after being greeted by his aunt. I'm guessing that was Anne, Princess Anne. So he said his goodbyes, and he said that she was in the bedroom, and he was happy for her because she had completed life and her husband was waiting for her. So isn't that so sad? Now we all have so much context concerning how Prince Harry arrived there at Balmoral Castle alone when all the family members boarded that private jet and took off without him. So this is a huge thing to say. This is huge, and it is something that I think has touched a lot of people, because we saw how devastated Prince Harry was in those images as he arrived there alone. He truly felt alone, and I think we saw the image of someone at the airport. I think one of the attendants there actually comforting him. And, it's just stunning. It is stunning. As we all learn of these things, you just really realize how much this family needs to sit down and have some very deep and meaningful conversations and apologies that are from the heart. And of course, Prince Harry touches on this again and again with the briefings against him and his wife. He was asked as well, how could his family trust him to have those conversations with him? And he asked him, how would they not know that he would reveal those conversations in an interview somewhere? And Harry answered and said that this started with the briefings against his wife, where it led to the point of them having to run away from his country. He said that the ball is in their court. No, he is willing to forgive. And I do think that Prince Harry is willing to forgive. And Anderson Cooper said something interesting, that in this conversation, it did seem to him, with all of the dynamics of the press and all of these full-scale issues that go on there that are so high stakes, that he said that it was hard for anyone to imagine a family dynamic that is so Game of Thrones, in quotes, without dragons. And Prince Harry answered and said, quote, "I don't watch Game of Thrones, but there's definitely dragons," he said. And that, again, is the third party, which is the British press. So ultimately, without the British press as part of this, we would probably still be a fairly dysfunctional family, like a lot are, he says. And he went on to say, quote, "But at the heart of it, there's a family without question. And I really look forward to having that family element back. I look forward to having a relationship with my brother. I look forward to having a relationship with my father and other members of my family," end quote. And he was asked, does he really want that? And Harry said that that is all he's ever asked for. So yeah, once again, that thread, you feel like he's really been alone, not only in these times when we've been able to publicly see him being shunned, but really so much more behind the scenes. So he also talks about Camilla, which according to a lot of us, I think is a hugely bold step. He talks about the fact that she had a reputation and an image to rehabilitate. And he also placed emphasis on this fact in his interview with Michael Strahan. I'm going to be just doubling into that because he talks about more or less the same things, but using some very different wording sometimes. He said that he does not view Camilla as a, quote, evil stepmother. But as I said before, he empathizes with her. He empathizes with the fact that she had an image, which I think we all famously know that quote from Princess Diana. She was the third person in that marriage between the then Prince Charles and Princess Diana, and she needed to rehabilitate her image. So he accused Camilla and even his father at times of using him or William to get better tabloid coverage for themselves. And he said this in quote, that Camilla, quote, sacrificed me on her personal PR altar, end quote. That's what he said of her. And he went on to say, quote, if you are led to believe as a member of the family that being on the front page, having positive headlines, positive stories written about you is going to improve your reputation or increase the chances of you being accepted as monarch by the British public, then that's what you're gonna do, end quote. So yes, he did admit to the fact that he and a younger William had asked their dad not to marry Camilla. And when he was asked why, he said that he didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to do more harm than good, but they did want him to be happy, and they saw how happy he was with her. So at the time, it was okay. And he also said that there was an aspect to her that was dangerous, and it was because of her need to rehabilitate her image, he said. And what particularly about that made her dangerous, according to Prince Harry, was because of the connections that she was forging within the British press. So you can imagine for a younger William and Harry who, according to what he said in his interview, they had apportioned a type of blame for the misery that their mother had gone through to the British press to see their new stepmother engaging them in that way. I think for them, they just did not like that. And of course, that aspect of the whole briefing against them and, using them for PR. And I don't think William can refute this. There was a story that came out a couple of years ago about the first meeting with William and Camilla, and it turned out that that whole situation was staged in order to gain the public's, approval. And that's when a younger William and Harry, after a while, split their offices from their dad because they did not want to be part of that. So yeah, once again, when Harry talks about the fact that he and William had made a pact not to brief against each other, not to use their respective offices there in the palace and their officials to trade stories in the press to make the other look better, it's so sad how we know how that has gone, because we have it in court documents that senior palace officials were engaged in some kind of, giving of information against the Sussexes. And Harry himself called it out. And he said this to Tom Bradby to emphasize that anytime one sees a story where it's attributed in some certain portions to a senior palace official or a palace source or an unnamed palace source. It's just briefing, through and through. So that, of course, does breed mistrust. So how does that help? When Prince Harry was asked by Michael Strahan as well, that does him talking in the press help anything? He says that he hopes he would be able to bring a stop to it because he would shine a light on that negative relationship that the palace has with the press and the briefing. And if, he can put it to a stop, especially considering what happened to Meghan and how her mental health deteriorated and how in the end they all had to, step back. Yes, he has to do it. And we know for sure that even in this past week that we've had stories coming out about Prince Harry with unnamed sources. So it kind of does prove his point. This all has to stop. This family needs to sit down for real, yeah? Another standout to me is when he talks about Meghan, and he says that when she was introduced to the family that initially his dad took to her. His dad liked her. In fact, I think they had a connection over the fact that back in the day, the then Prince Charles had a love and affinity for the arts. So I'm sure there were so many interesting conversations that they had about that, talking about time on the stage. So he says that his dad initially took a liking to her, but that William was skeptical and disdainfully referred to Meghan as a, quote, un-American actress. And, before they had a chance to know her, the press had jumped on that. That's what Prince Harry says. And, he named the fact that she was an American, that she was an actress, a divorcee, black, biracial, with a black mother. And it was a stereotype that became a feeding frenzy for the British press. And he asked, did those factors about Meghan also cause there to be a source of mistrust? And he said yes, because his family read the tabloids. He said it's laid out at breakfast when everyone comes together. So he said that the stories they were seeing were leaving an imprint on their minds, those initial stories, and they might have had a judgment based on a stereotype right at the beginning. So he also talked about the fact that people blame Meghan and say, quote, she must be a witch. He's changed, end quote. That's so funny. I've actually seen some people saying that online. They say that she must have, used some type of, dark arts on him. I have literally seen that, and I wish I had screenshotted that tweet. But yes, it's interesting that he points that out in a way that people blame her for the change. And he says, yes, he's changed. Instead of him getting drunk and falling out of clubs and taking drugs, he says that now he's found the love of his life and he now has an opportunity to start his family with her. And once again, when we remember Tyler Perry saying that he knows that Harry loves Meghan, I think it's so, so true. It shines through. This man loves this woman. And the fact that he also speaks about the statement that he put out initially, rebuking the British press and how they had covered her. He said that his dad and William did not like that. And when he was asked why, he said because they did not have a chance to do so for their own partners at the time. It did make Prince Harry look so chivalrous and masculine in the press. Everyone was going on about, he must really love her. And that's interesting. Once again, that element of competition and that thread of some type of jealousy as well. So the two interviews that he had, though touching on a lot of similar subjects, you do get a sense of the fact that he does want reconciliation as well. He was asked whether he would ever have a position with the family in both interviews, and he does keep on talking about if he was requested. The door is open. He would love to do something with the Commonwealth, and I think a lot of people in the UK, especially around the time when they were doing the coverage concerning the Queen's passing, they said that, King Charles is more elderly and he does need his two sons to help him carry the weight of it all. He needs all hands on deck for this to be successful, and he doesn't need to have the Commonwealth, which are predominantly people of color, people in African nations and in the Caribbean countries and on, seeing this type of thing playing out. It's not a good look for sections of the British press, and it's not good for the monarchy as well to exclude Meghan, Harry, to exclude his biracial children. It just doesn't make sense. I think they should all sit down. We must pray for healing and for some type of reconciliation that is true, and where these press offices can be called together and put in place these measures that they are not allowed to brief against each other. A lot of these things sound like they are insurmountable, but it can be hashed out if people just sit down and actually think about it. So in all of the things he has said, I think a lot of us have taken note of the fact that he does leave doors open. He's talked about the fact that he and Meghan may have done wrong. He was asked, did he have any wrong in the breakdown of any of the relationships? And he told Michael Strahan, yes, he does believe that they too may have done wrong, and he is willing to apologize, and he is also willing to forgive. And I think it's so sad when you hear him saying that he's not talked to his dad, King Charles, or William, or Camilla in how long, who knows. And yes, I do still have hope for there to be healing. I mean, we always pray that there is healing. We don't want to see these relationships permanently broken down. And he did say something quite interesting to Michael Strahan. He said that him speaking out in the hope that all of these kind of underhand press briefings that go on can stop will also help future generations moving ahead. And I think that for the future, quote, spares who in time will be watching this and seeing how Harry was treated, someone as beloved as, Prince Harry, the second son of Princess Diana, and seeing how the press have just gone after him and after his wife, and so many things have stayed unrebuked. I think that any future, quote, spares, they will have to really chew on that. And if there is true love in that family for, those other children coming down the line, then it's time to stop. If it doesn't stop with Prince Harry, what will happen? So for all the people who are saying Prince Harry should keep quiet, go away, sometimes the people who are speaking truth are actually trying to help you, because we don't want to see this happening to any one of those future heirs and, quote, spares in the line coming up in the years to come. We don't want to see a repeat of the same. And one thing we learn about history is that sometimes people, they don't learn from it. So if it's been repeated before with his mother, we saw the briefings against her, the mouthpieces, the isolating her. We are seeing the same being done to Prince Harry. We've seen some of the outrageous headlines against him and Meghan. Then if they don't break the cycle, who will? It will take someone with the power and the draw and the privilege, in quotes, of Prince Harry to shine a proper light on this, that it can stop. So there were a couple of other things that stood out to me, but these were some amazing standouts. So share your thoughts with me on this in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. And now I invite you to share your thoughts on these revelations and what stood out to you in both interviews. In fact, in all of the 3 interviews, share your highlights and standouts with me. I would love to know your thoughts. So before we log off, as always, a special thank you to those who support this channel financially. Your support really warms my heart, and I want to give a shout out right now to you. Thank you to Eldridge for your love and for your support for this channel. I pray for you every day, and I appreciate you. Thank you to Barbara F. Smith. Barbara, I'm so grateful to God for you being in my life and for your generous spirit. Thank you. And Lydia Washington, one of the channel moderators here on YouTube. Lydia, thank you so much for all the ways that you engage on this channel. I truly, truly do love you. Thank you. And thank you to Magdalene Jano Baptiste, who is a channel supporter through membership here on YouTube. Magdalene, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your dear love and support. Thank you. And thank you once again to Gail Tapscott. Gail, you have such a kind and a loving heart. I truly do appreciate you. Thank you. Once again, thank you to all who support this channel, and leave your thoughts on this in the comment section. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let the algorithm know you enjoyed what you watched. And also subscribe. I'd love you to be a part. I love you all. Have a great day wherever you are, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a blessed one.